Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus pilot, and today we are going to review the brand new WinCtrl 32 RMP. RMP stands for Radio Management Panel, and it is the panel used to control most commonly your radio frequencies, but also the standby navigation functions in your favorite Airbus A320, A330 and A340 families. At this point, I would already like to thank WinCtrl for sending me a review unit of the RMP. So let's get straight into this one. The RMP is available for a price of €74.40 on WinCtrl's European store, for $77.50 on the global store, and for £79.83 on the United Kingdom store. Since the question did come up on my last WinCtrl review, yes, it is a little bit more expensive in the United Kingdom, but that is due to local policies and structures. Just like any WinCtrl unit, it comes with very basic packaging that does not waste any money on fancy printouts or something. Next to the RMP itself, you will also find some screws, a screwdriver and adhesive pads so that you can mount the unit in whichever way you want onto your favorite flight sim setup. The RMP is 14.6 times 8.2 centimeters wide and 5.1 centimeters high if you don't account for the knobs, respectively 7.3 if you do account for them. Now let's go ahead and have a look at the unit itself. My first impression is that WinCtrl have once again delivered a fine quality, which we can especially see on the guard of the backup nav switch on the lower left hand side of the RMP, which is modeled including its spring and correct functionality as per the real plane. Now, you also have the screws on top of the panel model, together with all the lights indicating which panel is selected. The only difference that I noticed to the real-world aircraft is that the real aircraft has a slightly elevated panel around the numbers of the frequencies. You can see that it is slightly elevated in the WinCtrl unit, but not as pronounced as it is in the real-world airplane. Moving on from here, we can have a look at the side of the panel, and you can see that it is slightly elevated to stand in an angle if you simply put it onto your desk. The real panel is flat in the pedestal. However, I do appreciate this feature from WinCtrl because it makes it easier to read the panel when you locate it on your desk rather than place it in a pedestal that is located directly next to your viewpoint in the real-world aircraft. Therefore, you increase usability by adding that angle, and if you do want to mount it directly next to you on desk, then you can see that the entire stand that you would use on your desktop is located somewhat inwards, so that you can still place the panel at a proper angle if you put it, for example, onto the WinCtrl throttle mount. Therefore, you have both options to use it on your desk or to mount it properly on one of the WinCtrl throttle mounts in appropriate positions. Lastly, let's have a look at the bottom of the panel, where you can see that it includes a USB-C port and of course also a USB-C cable that is included with the delivery that is mounted to go out to the side of the panel, which works very well if you place the panel on your desk, but which can become a little fiddly if you locate the panel in a WinCtrl throttle mount. In any case, you can see that it is a very well-designed panel and it stands very sturdy on your desk, unlike some of the past panels that WinCtrl had produced, so you can clearly see an advancement in quality on this one. Before we have a look into the practical operation of the RMP, let's have a quick look into SimApp Pro. SimApp Pro is the software WinCtrl uses to connect their hardware units with the flight simulator and to control all of their operations. Now, the first thing we see over here is that you are told exactly which number is assigned to which of those buttons. So if you go into your flight simulator controls, you immediately know which is which can make it easier to assign your controls inside the simulator if you want to use a non-supported airplane. Now, By default, SimApp Pro already supports a lot of aircraft, including the Phoenix A320 families, the Flight Simlabs A321, the fly-by-wire Airbuses, the Headwind Sukhoi Sukajet and their Airbus A330, as well as the PMDG 737 and 777 lineups for both Flight Simulator 2020 as well as 2024. Also supported are the complete INI-built aircraft fleets, and for the X-Plane guys among you, the Flight Factor 777s, Flight Factor 757 and 767 are also supported by the unit. Support for more aircraft is going to be added in the future, but for the time being, those are the initially supported units. Now within SimApp Pro you have a couple of test functions on the right hand side. For example, you can test that all the lights are working by pressing the lights on button. You can also test the indicators using the different patterns down here, where you can check that all of your hardware functions are working. A little more important for the practical use, however, is what you see on the left hand side over here, where you got a couple of mode switches. Now, first of all, there's the button mode, and for games that do not support 128 button modes, such as EL2, Star Citizen and so on, you can switch to the 4x32 button mode over here, and that supports those games. Now, what's more relevant for Flight Simulator over here is that you can switch between 3 different units. So, if you have a look into most Airbus cockpits, you will notice that there are 3 different RMPs installed in the aircraft. There is one on the captain's side down here, there is one on the first officer's side over there, and then there is a 3rd unit located on the overhead panel. Now, your WinCtrl unit can be used with any of those units by switching between the different RMPs down here in SimApp Pro. You can do that live on the run while your flight simulator is running, or you can do it while your flight simulator is not running, that doesn't matter. Now, one thing that's worth mentioning over here is that by default mine was set to RMP center, and the center is the unit on the overhead panel. So if you connect your unit for the first time and you're wondering why it is not doing something on the panels where you would typically look at, which for most flight simmers is going to be the captain's panel, then this may be the button that you want to try. So set it to RMP-L for the captains, RMP-R for the first officers, and RMP-C for the overhead panel. Now let's have a look at the practical operation of the RMP. For this we are going to use the Phoenix A320 in Flight Simulator 2024, and as expected the RMP is coupled through SimApp Pro. Now, the moment we press any switch in the real-world unit, the information transmits pretty much instantly to the Phoenix Airbus. The same also applies for a change in frequency, as you can see over here. Unfortunately, this does come with a little drawback, and that is that in the real-world unit, when you do one quick spin of the inner knob, that basically changes the frequency by about a third of the entire range, so around 0.3 on the scale. Unfortunately, Flight Simulator doesn't support that many inputs, and for that reason you can achieve the fastest change in frequency by dialing it something like this, which is a little bit slower than the real-world unit is. Here's an example that I recorded on a recent real-world flight, and as you can see, the speed at which the frequency changes if you rotate the knobs quickly is a lot quicker than it is in the simulation. Now, this is not a problem of WinCtrl, this is a problem with the speed at which Flight Simulator accepts inputs. So every single one change is basically one input into the simulator, and the number of inputs is simply limited by number 1, the simulator, but number 2, also the add-on aircraft in question. You can nicely see this when we switch over to a PMDG aircraft, which accepts quite the higher input speed. So let's go ahead and make a quick turn over here and see what's going to happen. You can see that in the PMDG you're getting about a 0.1 difference. Again, in the real 737 it would also be a little bit quicker, but this is all that the simulator supports at the moment. Another feature that I really enjoy with the Airbuses is that the backlighting of the panel can be controlled by your add-on. So right now we are on full bright, and when I slowly set this down you can see that the WinCtrl panel does respond appropriately. That's a really neat touch to the units. And that's what I got for you today. WinCtrl have once again delivered a fantastic unit that looks good, feels good, and comes at an absolutely fantastic price. I have used the units for a couple of days now and really wouldn't want to do without it any longer. I do hope that support for more aircraft is going to be added soon, so that I can use this panel not just on the currently supported aircraft but also on any other aircraft that I got, which is really my only point of critique that I got over here in terms of functionality, that I would love for it to work with more aircraft straight out of the box, even though the number of supported aircraft is of course pretty great already. My only other point of critique is that the area around the frequencies on the panel isn't elevated like it is, for example, on WinCtrl's transponder panel, and definitely on the real aircraft panel as well. But apart from that, it's a fantastic unit and I do really love using it. And that's going to be it for today's review. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I do hope that you enjoyed this one. As always, leave your feedback in the comments underneath the video. Head over to WinCtrl's website to purchase your copy. Thank you very much again to WinCtrl for providing me a review copy of the RMP. And with that, I would like to thank you very much for watching. As always, like, comment and subscribe. And if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all in the virtual skies soon.